Hello, I'm Chris Williams from Read Comics They're Bad For You, the name of my YouTube channel. Or if you're watching this on Library or BitChute, the name of my channels on those two websites is Comic Freak. We're going to be talking about how people are trying to reboot Back to the Future. And I hope they do not, because Back to the Future is damn near the perfect movie. So, let's get into this article and see what's up. We're only going to be looking at the first part of this article because it goes, directly into the second article that I think is more important later on in this video. Tom Holland confirmed Back to the Future remake talks have happened. The 1985 blockbuster Robert Zemeckis' film, starring Michael J. Fox in what was his breakout feature film performance as an accidental time traveler, Marty McFly, the film's time machine, and now iconic DeLorean, was the brainchild of eccentric scientist Emmett Doc Brown. Christopher Lloyd. Over the course of 5 years, the Back to the Future franchise was made up of 3 films, with the first movie in which Marty accidentally travels back to 1955 and must find his way back home to 1985 being arguably the most beloved of the entire series. Even today, the film's fan base is so strong that sporadic calls by some to reboot Back to the Future are typically met with very firm resistance, and I can't say that is not happy to hear. I have to say, I do not want to see this movie rebooted into another mediocre action franchise, or whatever you could say Back to the Future is. It is a sci-fi movie, but it's more like a action series than anything else. So seeing it get the MCU or Star Wars treatment would be arguably the worst thing I could see. And here's the real article we're going to be looking at. Back to the Future creator Bob Gale throws shade at Star Wars and old man Luke Skywalker. And as I understand it, these creators of Back to the Future are basically going to keep their hands on the property and not sell it to anyone for the foreseeable future. So we could look for a good 20, 30 years before anything or anyone brings up making a reboot to Back to the Future. So let's read what I really feel on this and how I'm glad the creators agree with me. However, this opposition hasn't stopped some creative interpretations as to who could potentially play both the Marty and Doc characters in a new version of the classic film. Earlier this month, a deepfake video emerged online in which one of Back to the Future's famed scenes was recreated, Holland as Marty McFly and Robert Downey Jr. as Doc. The recreation was a particularly impressive one, prompting many to believe these two were perfect for a reboot. Of course, the internet is home to huge arrays of suggestions, interpretations, and rumors regarding sequels and reboots. Simply because they exist online does not mean they will ever make their way into actual production. In the case of a Back to the Future reboot, however, Holland admits not only has he seen the deep fakes, but he was impressed with it, and reboot talks have indeed occurred. While this might be exciting news for some, Holland stops short of saying that a Back to the Future reboot will actually happen. The Spider-Man star revealed this news during an interview with BBC Radio 1 when he said, "But before we get into that, let's talk about the deep fakes that basically spawned this new array of, calls to remake Back to the Future. Probably there's a good chance this actually came from the studios themselves to, see how much of a hype they could make to get this film remade. Or at least get a sequel out, because they need this money out so badly. But then again, it's probably a good chance it's just a bunch of kids online having some fun with deepfake technology and actually made this. But then again, they said it was actually of great quality, so I wouldn't put it past the studios to send this out themselves to try and gauge what kind of fan reaction they can get for it." In an interview with the BBC, Gale reiterates that he and co-creator Robert Zemeckis have no interest in continuing the story of Back to the Future or having it remade on film. This has been Gale and, Robert Zemeckis' stand ever since they finished off the films back in the late 80s. They haven't wanted to see them remade, especially in their lifetime. Gale says he and Zemeckis are asked all the time by studio bosses to do another film. All the time. What can we do to convince you guys to do this? Gale explains the answer is nothing. We said nothing. You'll make a lot of money. We already made a lot of money. He adds, you don't sell your kids into prostitution. It was the wrong thing to do. We put the end at the end of part 3 for a reason. Right? Because it was the end of the story. There was no more to tell. And a reboot will just tell the same story over again with new actors. What's the point of doing that when the originals have great special effects all on their own? When the story is done, you put the book away. You don't just, get out a piece of paper and write your own version of it. Or just basically, start transcribing the story onto a new piece of paper because you don't want to be done with this story. If you reboot it, it's just going to be the same story again. Maybe you'll move some points around. Maybe the characters will be gay, or maybe they'll be woke, or maybe we'll have a black Marty McFly for some odd reason. But otherwise, the characters and the story will be exactly the same, and it will bring nothing new to the table. just leave it alone. Just, if you want to make a time travel story, make a time travel story. There's literally dozens made every year, I think. Gale continues, plus MichaelJ.Fox isn't in the shape to do a movie, and nobody wants to see Marty McFly having Parkinson's disease, and nobody wants to see another actor playing Marty McFly if it's supposed to be a continuation. And then Gale took a shot at the Disney Star Wars movies and old man Luke Skywalker, where we've already seen the Star Wars movies, and Luke Skywalker is an old man, he adds, that can be a little bit painful, right? As YouTuber Yellow Flash notes in the video, it's also a shot at George Lucas, a little bit of shade thrown at Lucas. He's got plenty of money, he could have stopped, he didn't need to sell Star Wars, he was already super rich, so he kind of sold his kids to a working lady life, didn't he? He did. After years of seeing reboots, I kind of want to see the originals. I am getting tired of everybody basically making effing little movies that are basically no better and far worse than the originals. I like the originals more. So I'm happy that Gale here is not going to move his butt from his position and basically keep a Back to the Future reboot from ever happening. Hopefully he can work out something with his family that they keep the rights to the film and make sure, or rather the film series, and make sure none of them are ever remade ever again. I mean, they are in the right here when they throw shade at everybody who wants to remake this film. What could it possibly bring to the table that would possibly be interesting than watching some guy do a layman interpretation of MichaelJ.Fox and, well, Doc Brown doing their characters? I mean, Solo did the exact same thing with Harrison Ford's Solo character, and look how that turned out. Yellowflesh adds, no one wants to see Old Man Luke, just like nobody wants to see a broken down Marty McFly. I think that's a very great comment. Gale didn't stop there, though. He continued, we learned from the fact that so many studios have gone back to the well on so many of their franchise properties too many times, and the audiences are disappointed and say, oh my god, they ruined my childhood. Gale concludes, we don't want to ruin anybody's childhood, and doing a musical was the perfect way to give the public more Back to the Future without messing up what has gone before. What do you make of Gale's comments? Well, I agree with Gale's comments here is that George Lucas did not need to sell Star Wars. He could have just sat on the property and made sure that no one ever remade it again. I was hoping he would have done that originally because I knew that Disney was just going to screw this up. They're already going to screw up the MCU because, well, Kevin Feige's already let himself become somewhat woke. I can only say these movies will fail in the future and that they should be put in the vault and basically only the originals and the prequels should be allowed out. And I can't thank Gale enough for defending his position and never going to budge from it and make sure that Back to the Future is never remade again. That way, anybody who is ever connected to this film or who has ever enjoyed it can look at this film and just know that it will never be blemished. What can I say else? Yes, we got a broke down Luke Skywalker who basically lost all of his priorities and became little more than a crazy bum living on an island. I do not want to see Marty McFly turned into the same kind of character, him being an old rock star, or basically being the same character we saw in Back to the Future 2, basically being a bum living in a little house with his family and basically screwing up. Because there's the only way you can really go with this is basically to disparage and damage the characters if it's not a reboot. I mean, it's a reboot? Why even have a reboot? Back to the Future is a damn near perfect movie and should never be touched again. And I can't thank the creators sticking to their guns and not allowing themselves to become greedy to the point where they destroy their own property just so they can get more money. They made their money, they know their positions, and they know they want to keep this film pure and simple. They don't want to ruin anyone's childhood, and they just want to live the rest of their lives happy knowing that no one can ever remake it. If you like this video, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube is going around unsubscribing people. So make sure you're still subscribed. If you're watching my videos but you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics that are bad for you. Then go over to Library and BitChute and subscribe to my channels on those two websites. They're both called Comic Freak. Hit that bell for notifications. Hit that like button and leave some comments down below. And if you could you also please share this video? Share it on Twitter. Share it on Reddit. And share it on Facebook. Share it anywhere you think it'll do the most good because YouTube is not going around promoting their own YouTube creators anymore. So please share this video. Now listen closely. It's that time of the day again. It's plug-in time. Keep checking back in all my future videos for more information on my own upcoming independent comic book scumdogs. I'm Chris Williams and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video or review.